Welcome to the Martin Luther King Jr. Association of Asheville and Buncombe County Peace March and Rally online recognition. I am Dr. Oralene Simmons, President of the Martin Luther King Board and a longtime advocate for civil rights, equality, and justice. As we look at the history of marches, we reflect today on the 1932 Veterans Protest in Washington, as reported by the National Park Service. The article, The Forgotten March, states, on July 28, 1932, General Douglas MacArthur rode on the Eclipse south of the White House in his uniform and stiff leather boots as more than 200 cavalrymen, about 400 infantrymen, and 5 tanks assembled nearby. He told Washington's police chief that he would break the back of the enemy. MacArthur claimed and climbed inside a staff car. Major Dwight D. Eisenhower took his place in another, and Major George S. Patterson, Jr. took on front the heights of his saddle. The 3 military leaders would later become celebrated as heroes of fighting the German and the Japanese armies during World War II. But on this summer afternoon, during the Great Depression, they were up against a much more modest adversary. Thousands of veterans who for 2 months had demonstrated peacefully in the nation's capital, demanding wages for their services in World War I. They insisted they were asking for money they were owed rather than a bonus. But the movement soon became known as the Bonus Army, and the name stuck. In Washington that day, the military marched on, herding vets and onlookers alike with bayonets. Some threw a stone, and soldiers were wearing gas masks, responding by hurling tear gas grenades. Soon, a gas cloud wavered over the crowd, sending men, women, and children into controlled fits of coughs and crying. Soldiers tortured shanties that vets had built in abandoned buildings near Pennsylvania Avenue. Through the bonus marches, did not achieve their goal at that time. They showed that it was possible to air their grievances publicly and peacefully. More than 3 decades later, Martin Luther King Jr. and his adversaries looked at the Bonus Army's tactics for inspiration as they planned their poor people's march on Washington, a multiracial protest that took place during the spring of 1968. Shortly after King's assassination, the Vets' ill-fated campaign also paved the way for legislation that would offer loans, mortgages, and tuition benefits to millions of World War II veterans, significantly expand the country's middle class and contribute to the period of unprecedented prosperity. Today, our call to action may not be protesting in the streets due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but for each of us to find ways that we can continue to challenge unjust laws and practices.